This just into CBS Sports HQ. CBS Sports insider Dennis Dodd confirms Arizona is leaning in joining the Big-12. They would become the fourth school to announce they're leaving the Pac-12 following Colorado last week, and USC and UCLA headed to the Big Ten next season. Arizona's Board of Regents are expected to vote on the final decision. If Arizona leaves, that would give the Pac-12 a situation where they could be looking at 8, 9, or 10 teams left, because Arizona State and Utah is also considering a move to the Big 12. Now, look at the conference here you have. This is the newly formed Big 12, if in fact Arizona joins, and they already have 4 new schools in the conference coming into this year: BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF. They added Colorado, which they would start next season. The schools I just mentioned, they're going to start this year. I know it's a lot to digest, but this is another situation where we have a super conference that is in the process of building its members out, and Arizona could be the latest. And for more on the story, welcome in CBS Sports senior writer Dennis Dodd, who's been at the forefront of conference realignment here at CBS. And Dennis, when you look at what's going on with Arizona, what more can you tell us about how close they are to a move to the Big 12?
Yeah, Hakeem, my sources tonight are telling me that Arizona is a quote-unquote hard lean towards joining the Big 12. Now, that's a recruiting term when you're almost signed, but you're not quite signed. And the reason isn't because Arizona at this hour is in executive session discussing that very subject. So it looks like, for all intents and purposes, Arizona is in, but it's not official yet. That would, as you said, that would make 14 teams, and that opens just a whole bunch of questions as to what comes next. Does Arizona State join? Does Utah then join? Does that force or make, Oregon or Washington easier for them to go to the Big Ten? So the dominoes, once again, it looks like, are falling out west. Okay,
so you just mentioned Arizona State and Utah. As we talked about this, they're also considering a move to the Big 12, which, I mean, my gosh, we're looking at a 16-team conference there, Dennis. Another one of these super conferences, which is where college football feels like it's heading. What's the latest on their discussions with Arizona State and Utah if they decide to leave the Pac-12?
Yeah, earlier today I was told that Utah had changed its mind and was kind of trending towards the Big 12. The Arizona State was still waiting. But I think as time goes on, you're going to see, as we see Colorado, Arizona. Frankly, Hakeem, there's not going to be much of a Pac-12 to stay in as time goes on. So these are life-altering decisions these schools are going to have to make. So Brett Yormark has maintained, I should emphasize, from the beginning, he wants to stop at 14. But I'm also told from different sources that he absolutely has the money committed to do 16. In other words, he has pro rata, $31.7 million per year for 6 years for those particular schools if they join. Now, that could be a line of credit, that could come from the networks, but he definitely has the support of presidents to get that money for those schools if they decide to join.
The other teams in the Pac-12 that are considering leaving is Oregon and Washington, like joining USC and UCLA, going to the Big Ten. Is that something that's imminent, or is that something that we're in discussions right now? Where do those schools stand in terms of joining the Big Ten?
Well, Washington has its own Board of Regents meeting, which begins at midnight Eastern time to discuss this subject. But I was just told some developing news about Washington. Because of the travel involved in the Big Ten, they're saying they need about $10 million to cover that. Now, I think we go into this discussion with Oregon and Washington to the Big Ten. They are not going to get a full share from the Big Ten. That's not the worst thing in the world, because they're only getting a projected $20 million in this deal with Apple from the Pac-12. So anything over 20 would be a bonus. And I told one source, what about getting $30 million? And he said that they would have to be more than $30 million because of the $10 million. You take that off, you've got $20 million, same as the Pac-12. But again, as the Pac-12 continues to diminish, if schools continue to leave, what leverage does Washington or Oregon have in that travel discussion? But that is now a hang-up for Washington. They are telling the Big Ten that they need some sort of consideration for added travel annually.
All right. So as it stands right now, there are 9 members, right, in the Pac-12. If Arizona, if in fact leaves, we are down to 8 teams, which the conference used to be the Pac-8 in the late 60s and 70s. Is that enough for George Kliavkoff and the schools to continue the Pac-12? Like, what's next for them if in fact they go down to 8 schools and we could be possibly talking about 6?
Well, they would backfill, and if they would backfill with the likes of San Diego State, perhaps Fresno State. I know what you're going to say next. I have this vision of Stanford in the same conference as Fresno State. Yeah, that's kind of weird to begin with. But look, if Washington and Oregon leave, I think we're talking about the dissolution of the Pac-12, or it becomes a hybrid with the Mountain West. Call it the Pac Mountain or Mountain Pac or something like that, where all you'd have left viable would be Washington State and Oregon State to matriculate over to the Mountain West. So we're really looking right now, Hakeem, at the dissolution of a power conference for the first time since the Big East in 2007. It's been called a Power 5 for years now. By the end of the night, it might be a Power 4.
Yeah, really, it'll be powerless. And I'm not trying to make a joke there or be funny. It's just I am surprised at what has gone down here in the Pac-12. Once a very proud conference, and it still is, but teams leaving left and right. This is not good for George Kliavkoff and the schools. A lot to figure out here, and thankfully we've got Dennis Dodd to sort it out for us here on CBS Sports HQ. Dennis, thank you.
Thank you.